Mr. Lee also touched on the challenges Singapore faces externally, especially with strained US-China relations and Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Even as we emerge from the pandemic, our external environment has become very troubled. US-China relations, which sets the tone for global affairs, are worsening. The two powers are divided over many issues. Apart from US-China tensions, Russia's invasion of Ukraine also has profound implications for the world and for Singapore. Our region has enjoyed peace for so long that it's hard for us to imagine things being different. But look at how things have gone wrong in Europe. How suddenly and quickly. And can you be sure that things cannot go wrong like that in our region too? So we must get real, and we must get ourselves prepared psychologically.
Lynn, I know you've written quite a bit about this. Would you like to weigh in on this?
Yeah, certainly. I agree with what the Prime Minister said about how there are many areas of dispute between the United States and China. And while there are certainly many areas which are warranted, I think such as the South China Sea, where we've seen unlawful and coercive Chinese actions, such as the trading dispute, I think some of the points of contention are really quite unnecessary and worsen tensions between the US and China. So for instance, the framing of geopolitical tensions along ideological lines, I think that's very harmful to relations. It unnecessarily deepens divisions between the United States and China. It alienates, in the US case, it alienates potential partners. And of course, from the US perspective, it also opens up strategic space for China. So I don't really think that this particular framing is particularly helpful. And while the US has been responsible for framing the geopolitical competition in such a manner, I think China also has to share some of the blame. So for instance, before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a couple of weeks before that, we saw both China and Russia issuing a joint statement where both countries pledged unlimited partnership, a no limits partnership between the two countries. And I think that has really allowed the United States to seize upon what it paints as, a China-Russia alliance, which hasn't been particularly helpful to geopolitical tensions insofar as it has cleaved the world into the West versus the rest. So I think that's been problematic. On Russia and Ukraine, if I may, I think how the Prime Minister has really sought to sort of unpack the Russia-Ukraine crisis for Singaporeans to help us understand why it matters, even though it's an event that has happened so far away, but nonetheless it matters to the region and to Singapore. I think that's been very important. Insofar as we, as Asian countries in Asia, have looked at the implications of Russia's invasion of Ukraine for the region, this is largely focused, and we've seen the Prime Minister also focus on this, on food and energy supplies and prices. Insofar as it's focused on geopolitical consequences, this has examined, the implications of Russia-Ukraine for Taiwan. I think that if we're looking at the Taiwan issue, I do not think that that Russia's invasion of Ukraine increases the chances of China taking out a military invasion of Taiwan. The logic doesn't follow. I think China's main consideration in this respect is whether or not it can win a war that involved the United States quickly or at all. And I don't think that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has changed that factor. In fact, if anything, China would think thrice now about invading Taiwan. But I think Asia nonetheless needs to be very tuned in to the consequences of Russia's invasion of Ukraine for the region beyond Taiwan, beyond food and energy supplies and prices. Because first, it undermines the rules-based international order, which was already seeing some tensions or some pressure prior to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Second, because it also impacts perceptions of China as well as approaches towards China. As I mentioned earlier, this is cleaving the world. in terms of Western powers versus Eastern powers, and that's not particularly helpful for Southeast Asia or Asia more generally. And I think third, we should be concerned also because of where it puts other countries in Asia, not least Southeast Asia, because with this cleaving of the world into the West versus the rest, where does that place Southeast Asia? Many countries there are not, liberal democracies, or many countries here are not liberal democracies. And so that puts countries here in a rather uncomfortable position where, they do not want to pick a side, but perhaps that side is being chosen for them.